what I want to identify about trust in divine power is that it simply doesn't say trust in God. And this is, I like the articulation of Sister White, because there are many people who don't trust in God, who don't even believe in God, but they do believe in the healing process. So divine power is actually the healing process. Divine power is the process that causes a plant to grow and blossom and mushroom into life and bring forth flowers and fruit. Divine power is what keeps the seed from overwhelming the land. Divine power is what keeps the earth rotating. So whereas people may be stuck up on God, you understand, and not believing in God, the most tactful and realistic way we can go about it is trusting divine power. So yes, we may shorten it and say trust in God, but I like the words that she used very specifically, trust in divine power, because it is divine power that is at work. And as a matter of fact, there are quotations which show it is really only the power of God that causes a seed to germinate and causes life to go on. So whereas people are stuck on this point, it's a very tactful thing to do. Or you can even trust in the healing process. So whoever you are helping, whoever we are helping, they would need to trust that in the healing process that you are sharing with them. So this is the only realistic way we can go about, because our business, fulfill our duty. We don't have to shove religion down anybody's throat. You understand? God does things in such a tactful way that we could be grandstanding Him and holding out on Him, but the Spirit of God works around our biases, our prejudices, and then one day we realize, hey, guess what? Lord, I see things your way finally. So we don't always have to do the mountain goat approach and butt heads and lock horns with people. Oh, probably you don't believe in God, that's cool. I appreciate your honesty, but you need to trust in this divine, or trust in this healing process. So the question was posed, why do worldly herbalists apply, if trust in God is one of the laws of health, why are worldly herbalists receiving success? Well, quite frankly, it's really trusting divine power. And any person would receive success as they apply the laws of nature, the laws of health, because you see, the laws of gravity do not only apply to Christians.
Amen.
You understand? The laws of gravity apply to humanity. And so therefore, as is the laws of gravity for everybody are subject to the laws of health. So when we apply the laws of health to a situation, it will help the person, regardless of if the person is a Satanist, a psychic, whosoever. It doesn't make a difference. And also one thing that I would like us to understand as well, every person that we meet is a child of God, whether they recognize it or not. And God is able to use anyone whom He chooses as His minister. Nebuchadnezzar and Babylon was called in the book of Jeremiah God's battle axe. They were God's chastening rod for the children of Israel. So God is chastising His people with a heathen nation. And so therefore, those kind of thoughts keep me humble, not to be puffed up and think, well, I'm God's child and I must be the one that receives success. No. Everybody is God's servant at some level. And so when we come into contact with people, respect due. So when it comes to the laws of health, a person applying the right principles, even though they may have the wrong belief system, will get success. Because it's a principle that we are applying. This is what the Bible means, that God is not a respecter of persons. However, God can allow them to make certain shortcuts. You see, like the carrot came back from Philistia with the Ark of the Covenant on it, with some golden mice, 7 golden mice, all right? And nothing happened to the Philistines. But what happened to the Israelites when they continued doing that? No. So the rule the rule as it applied to the Israelites would have been different because the Israelites had true knowledge and the Philistines did not have true knowledge. But they sent the cart home, the Ark of the Covenant home, on a cart that was drawn by oxen, which was not God's way. So when David and the priests taking the same oxen on the with the same cart and the ark with the Ark of the Covenant on it, what happened to Uzzah? Died because this is not the way you do your work. So if the worldly herbalists are getting success, beautiful. Kudos to you. All right, they may be applying a few of these principles, but not all. But me, this is what we do. This is how we work. So therefore, David could not continue. They had to go and research how the Ark of the Covenant was to be carried. And in researching it, they realized that they sinned against God. The priest was supposed to carry the ark, not an oxen. So what is good for the goose may not necessarily be good for the gander. You understand? Circumstances alter cases. So people in the world, other people may receive good success in what they're doing as they apply these principles in their particular way, form, or fashion. And this is how we have been given to apply our principles as well. So just as a note, to answer that question, is trust in divine power. So whereas a person, you have not denied your faith when you tell them trust in the healing process. Because God is the author. God is the one that set up the principle of life, established the principles of healing. As these rules and laws are followed, success will be given. I don't think I also had mentioned stars. I had mentioned, we had talked about the stars. Viewing the stars open up your mind. So when people become very narrow-minded, there's one more as well. Oh, it's right there. Viewing the stars helps open up the mind and creates an awe for God, a wonderment behind God, so which is necessary. So this is why, yes, I had mentioned it. We should make sure that there are nights in the week where we can just, look at the stars, stargaze, be amazed at God. Bring your mind out of this box and be amazed at God. The next question we had was, are the laws of health as important as the 10 Commandments? The answer to that is yes, and I'm just going to read a quotation quickly on that point to you. It is taken from third volume of 3 BC, 1156, paragraph 5. Godliness does not conflict with the laws of health, but is in harmony with them. Had men ever been obedient to the law of 10 Commandments, had they carried out in their lives the principles of these 10 precepts, the curse of disease that now floods the world would not be. One whose mind is quiet and satisfied in God is on the highway to health. This is Crest Collection, page 46, paragraph 3. The transgression of the physical law is a transgression of God's law. Our Creator is Jesus Christ. He is the author of our being. He has created a human structure. He is the author of physical laws as he is the author of the moral law. And the human being who is careless and reckless of the habits and practices that concern his physical life and health sins against God. So are these laws of health as important as the 10 Commandments? Yes. So let's take away one. Can you live without rest? Can you live without exercise? Can you live without being temperate? Can you live without having a proper diet? Can you live without drinking water?
No.
All right. Can you live without trust in divine power? No, you really can't. Because you see, this is your state of mind. And if we cannot operate and live in a state of peace and rest and confidence, you don't live. You will literally self-destruct. Your nervous system will not be able to handle the trauma of living. You have to trust something. Even the person that says, the atheist that says they don't have faith or they don't believe in faith and whatnot is because they're looking at faith from a religious perspective, but not from a practical perspective. We always have to have faith. So when I get in the car and I turn the key, I have in faith, believe that I'm going to get to my destination in safety, that the car is going to work. When I get on the highway, that it's going to respond to me because I'm not seeing it happening. Neither is my hand on it making it happening. So there's always the element of faith in everything. And so therefore, I am trusting in that divine power. And a car is only running by divine power. How do we know a car runs by divine power? Because it's using law to work. Laws of mechanics and engineering, everything is based by law. You understand? Is that metal is being kept together, its molecules are kept together, aligned to each other because of God's law, keeping the molecules, or it can spontaneously combust. So trusting divine power is broad, is deep, very, very, very deep. So we have to trust that water will remain water, gasoline will remain gasoline tomorrow morning when I get up, metal will remain metal. I'm going to wake up and find my metal has turned to wood or become an elephant. So everything stays in its place because of law. And so this is the divine power. We can't live without cleanliness, and we certainly cannot live without herbs, because there'll be no medicine, there'll be no food. We know we can't live without sunlight, we will die. And if you don't have air, well, you ain't starting to live either. So none of these laws we can live without, just like we can't live without the moral law. So this may be the physical law. So the physical law is just as important as the moral law, and the chemical laws are also important, and the laws of physics are also important. These laws, when they are broken, we suffer. So yes, the physical law is as important as the moral law. Now, question 26 deals with what's the best way to overcome sinful habits in older people bound to their sins. And I had mentioned on Wednesday night that the older we get, the more difficult it becomes. No, you could have kept the lights on, brother. Oh. Yeah, you could have kept it on. Reform has its place in the work of the gospel and tends to the uplifting of the soul to a new and nobler life. So whatever reform that we are given, it uplifts our soul. If it doesn't uplift your soul, we have to check to see if it's really a reform or not. There must always be a benefit that we see from following God's path. God has not given us a path that is fraught with only darkness, but light should be upon our pathway. We should be able to measure the benefit of obedience to God, His will, His way, His word, His law. Especially does the temperance reform demand the support of Christian workers. They should call attention to this work and make it a living issue. Everywhere they should present to the people the principles of true temperance and call for signers of the temperance pledge. Earnest effort should be made in behalf of those who are in bondage to evil habits. There is everywhere a work to be done for those who through intemperance have fallen. In the midst of churches, religious institutions, and professedly Christian homes, many of the youth are choosing the path to destruction. Through intemperate habits, they bring upon themselves disease, and through greed to obtain money for a sinful indulgence, they fall into dishonest practices. Health and character are ruined, aliens from God, outcasts from society. These poor souls feel that they are without hope, either for this life or for the life to come. The hearts of the parents are broken. Men speak of these erring ones as hopeless, but not so does God regard them. So now we're dealing with outcasts in society. So God does not regard the outcasts in society as hopeless. So we can be used as agents of hope to bring people hope who have no hope, to bring people help who have no help. He understands all the circumstances that have made them what they are. He looks upon them with pity. This is a class that demand help. Never give them occasion to say, no man cares for my soul. This is where we come in. All right? This is where we come in. Because God needs our hands, needs our feet, needs us to be able to help people, because this class of people demands our help. You cannot give, when we give people the occasion to say, hey, God is not real, because if He's real, why, and this is everybody's question, if God is real, why is there so much suffering? Mm-hmm. All right? And therefore, there's a strong work for us to do in the alleviation of suffering, and this is where we began, because health reform has been given, or medical missionary work has been given to alleviate suffering, the suffering of humanity. Among the victims of intemperance are men of all classes and all professions, men of high station, of eminent talents, of great attainments, have yielded to the indulgence of appetite until they are helpless to resist temptation. Some of them who were once in the possession of wealth are without home, without friends, in suffering, misery, disease, and degradation. They have lost their self-control. Unless a helping hand is held out to them, they will sink lower and lower. With these, self-indulgence is not only a moral sin, but a physical disease. That's powerful. That's powerful. And so, yes, obesity is a disease, not because the person is obese, but because they do not have control of themselves. So for years they would say obesity is not a disease, but from this perspective, because it's self-indulgence that brought the person to this stage, it becomes a physical disease. They are now trapped. They can't help themselves. Therefore, they need some person to help them out, to be there with them, because they're now in a hopeless, helpless state, and they need a helping hand. We have those hands. Often, in helping the intemperate, we must, as Christ so often did, give first attention to their physical condition. They need wholesome, unstimulating food and drink, clean clothing, clean again, opportunity to secure physical cleanliness. They need to be surrounded with an atmosphere of helpful, uplifting Christian influence. In every city, a place should be provided where the slaves of evil habit may receive help to break the chains that bind them. Strong drink is regarded by many as the only solace in trouble, but this need not be, if instead of acting the part of the priest and Levite, professed Christians would follow the example of the Good Samaritan. This is too powerful. Yes. We're going to make it bigger. We're going to make it bigger. I forget how to make it font big. I'm not.
Maybe just 2 fingers.
Yeah. Beautiful. Everybody can see.
There we go.
Now, beloved, so when we talk about medical missionary work, we're not talking about lecturing. We're not talking about going to give a presentation. There is a work to do that we can do to help people in need. And the work is not some kind of fantastical work where we just roll out there and save the world. I want to do something profound. I want to cure cancer. I want to reverse this and I want to reverse that. The most work that you will find in this society, in this generation, right now, right around you, is simply helping people not to be controlled by vice. This is why Counsels and Diet Food dwells heavily on eating and drinking. See, because she said eating, drinking, and dressing have a direct bearing upon our spirituality. And so there are people who don't know literally how to eat. Many people don't know how to eat. And here is the word, and this is why I love this quote, is because it gives you, if you never knew what to do or how to begin doing it, here it tells you how to begin your personal medical ministry to others. Often in helping the intemperate, you must act as Christ so often did. First, give attention to their physical condition. They need wholesome, unstimulating food and drink. So cooking somebody a meal is ministry. You prepare a solid meal for some person, that is ministry. You don't have to go to a restaurant to buy unhealthful, unwholesome food. So cooking somebody a proper meal, or preparing a proper meal, not necessarily it needs to be cooked, but preparing someone a proper meal, that is ministry. They need wholesome and stimulating food and drink, clean clothing, opportunity to secure physical cleanliness. They need to be surrounded with an atmosphere of helpful, uplifting Christian influence.
Yes.
Y'all can remember when we go through in the Bible, the gifts of the Spirit. One of the gifts of the Spirit is the gift of helps.
Yes.
You know, there's always that person that just You just need their help. Always in every church, in every congregation, there is that person or those group of people that are just good at just helping. And so here, we need to look for people that we can help, that would appreciate the help as well. And so this is what they need. They need to be surrounded with an atmosphere of helpful, uplifting Christian influence. All right? Not self-righteous Christian influence. Everybody is sinners and evil and everything is wrong. You know, that helpful Christian influence. That Christian influence that knows how to look past the negative and accentuate the positive. All right? That is what we need to do. This is ministry. In every city, a place should be provided where the slaves of evil habit may receive help to break the chains that bind them. Strong drink is regarded by many as the only solace in trouble, but this need not be if instead of acting the part of the priest and Levite, professed Christians, that's us, would follow the example of the Good Samaritan. So here is a rebuke for us. I think it is in Christ Triumphant. You may have read it before. Perhaps you're getting there. This is the month of May. Christ expected much is in Desire Ages, sorry. Christ expected much, so he attempted much. When in your spare time, look at the biography of Robert Mueller. We know Robert Mueller, right? Oh, you don't know? You know Robert Mueller? Robert Mueller had no money. He just had a burden to help orphans. This man went from zero, having nothing, praying and said, Lord, this is what I want to do to help. Opened up the doors. He started to get, he opened orphanages to feed the children that were on the streets in England that were sleeping under the bridges. You understand? That had no family, that had no food, that were being robbed and killed and raped. All right? And they were all homeless children. And he opened up some place and he gave them a future. A future. You know what? It's to come to the place where you realize, I have no future. That's a terrible place to come to. And so he gave those children a future. He gave the lives of many people a future. And he opened up orphanages. And he didn't have no budget. He didn't have no sponsorship. All he had was faith. The command of God. God said, do it. He know that we should have a ministry to the sick. We have to come out of the realm of the theoretical into the practical. And this is medical missionary work. It is practical. It is not theoretical. And so therefore, if we can only see the obstacle, that means, if all I can see the obstacle, it means I've lost sight of the promise. You cannot let obstacles make you lose sight of God's promises to work on our behalf. And so, this is far forward that Robert Mueller did. Is a wonderful, wonderful example, wonderful documentary on his life. You'll find it quickly and easily on YouTube. But he went from housing just a few orphans, girls, boys, into having a big estate. Big estate. I mean, huge estate with rooms and buildings. All on faith. All on faith. This is a great work for us to do to help people. You see, because to whom much is given, much is expected. We have been given this, so as much is expected by God from us. In dealing with the victims of intemperance, we must remember that we are not dealing with sane men, but with those who for the time being are under the power of a demon. Be patient and forbearing. Think not of the repulsive, forbidding appearance, but of the precious life that Christ died to redeem. When Christ came into contact with these people, he never allowed them to see that. He never allowed them to see that. He never made them feel as though they were repulsed by his presence, or he never allowed them to see how, I want to word it right, Desire Ages worded a particular way. You know, sometimes we come into contact with sin and sinful people, sinfulness, sinful people, and we scoff, and we mourn, and we exclaim. Christ never did that. He did not allow you to know that he would have been repulsed by your present situation. He never did it. He hid that He kept that on the wraps because he recognized he's dealing with an individual, a human being. As a drunkard awakens to a sense of his degradation, do all in your power to show that you are his friend. So based on the questions that we had this morning about, what to charge for is this kind of stuff. You can't pay me for it. No, you cannot pay me for this. This is what you want to do. You can't pay me to help somebody in this condition. But if you're rolling deep and living in your nice house and you work in your nice job, you better pay me. Because you can afford these people, you can't afford it. This is where Christian help work comes in. So, for the person that can afford it, they pay it forward. For the person like this that can't afford it, that need genuine help. As a drunkard awakens to a sense of his degradation, do all in your power to show that you are his friend. Yes. Speak no word of censure. Let no act or look express reproach or aversion. This is the moral principles, the moral ground that we stand on. So when we're helping people, we help them. You can't help somebody up by pulling them down. We can't pull them down with words of censure. We must allow them to feel that we are their friend and we being their friend. Very likely the poor soul curses himself. Help him to rise. Somebody want to commit suicide and you're there telling them how foolish they are to be thinking that they should commit suicide. What you mean? You just call me foolish? 5 more times sharper the knife is going to be coming in the hand. They want to take their life, so there's that tap. Very likely the poor soul curses himself. Help him to rise. Speak words that will encourage faith. Seek to strengthen every good trait in his character. Teach him how to reach upward. Show him that it is possible for him to live so as to win the respect of his fellow men. This is why you love dependent inspiration. See? Girlfriend is keep it real. If you're helping somebody, you're helping them. And what we've been given has been given to us by God to help. We can get people off of cigarette, being slave to cigarette smoking, and alcohol through the laws of health. Through hydrotherapy that will pull the toxins out of the body, through clear baths that will pull the toxins out of the body, and so break the strength of the addiction. All right, and then through juicing green juices that would flush and cleanse the tissues of the system. So you cleanse it from inside pushing out, and outside pulling was inside out. And therefore they don't have to go through serious withdrawal symptoms. It's easy. It's easy. This is why I like to give people, this is what you have. So hey, if I am dealing with a cigarette smoker, how do I help the person who's been addicted to nicotine to get over the habit? I begin with deep breathing exercises. I am adding more oxygen to the blood and to the body, and this is going to help the blood to begin, and detoxification. Sunlight is going to cause them to sweat. Those tars and those toxins are going to be sweated out to the body. Adequate rest, regenerate the body. Exercise, coupled with sunlight, that is going to flush toxins out to the body. All right. Being temperate, abstaining from everything that is evil, a moderate use of that which is good, a proper diet so that it will help with the cravings as well, and lemon juice and garlic tea help to break the power of the cravings as well. Adequate water to flush the system, to flush the tissues. Trust that these things that we are applying will work, keeping yourself very, very, very clean. And then there are other herbs that will help with the addiction as well. You just have some person. You just came down the line. You just came down the line. It's not rocket science, it's more common sense than anything else. And so this is what you apply to help people who are in these situations. But it is more than this. Because you can have all the right tools, but here what we are seeing is the attitude that we are supposed to have. This attitude is what makes the difference. This is the attitude that makes the difference. This is the healing attitude. So medical missionary work is not simply about applying the healing tools. You must have the healing attitude. And many people don't know about the healing attitude in this field. So you want to have that healing attitude. All right? You don't want that condemnatory attitude. If you're helping a person, you have borne years with people in these situations. Years. But guess what? It's getting progressively better. It doesn't have to take years, it can take a matter of weeks or months, but you're dealing with a human factor. That's always the most difficult thing to deal with. No. Help him to see the value of the talents which God has given him, which he has neglected to improve. So you're giving this person a sense of place, a sense of being, a sense of importance, because guess what? You don't want them to come to the place where they take their life. Many people are hopeless because they feel like nothing, that they are no one. We are restoring hope in man, the image of God in man. Although the will has been depraved and weakened, there is hope for him in Christ. He will awaken in the heart higher impulses and holier desires. Encourage him to lay hold of the hope set before him in the gospel. Open the Bible before the tempted, struggling one, and over again read to him the promises of God. These promises will be to him as the leaves of the tree of life. Patiently continue your efforts until with grateful joy the trembling hand grasps the hope of redemption through Christ. As Christ is patient with us, bearing with our faults and our shortcomings, so are we to be patient with other people as well, especially those who are bound to vice. They want to stop, they don't know how to stop, and they resign themselves. Look, I'm going to dead by this. And they keep smoking, they keep drinking. Meanwhile, they're destroying their lives and their children's life. This is why. Again, you look at the author, the biography, or watch a documentary about William Booth. He went to the East End of London where the people felt as though nobody loved them or cared for them. He went there. And this is where you have the Salvation Army Church today, started by William Booth and his wife. His church don't want him to go to the ghetto, all right, but he went. And what become millions and millions and millions of people, because they went to save souls. And what did they do? They did not bring the Bible. Hey, I'm going to preach to you. I'm going to find some place for you to live. I'm going to help you to get off of your alcohol addiction. I'm going to provide work for you. I'm going to provide training for you. Complete systems. We have not yet challenged ourselves. We have not challenged ourselves. So we don't need to be a million strong in order to make a difference. But we have not yet challenged ourselves. There's a work out there for us to do. But we are limiting ourselves to only one stream, only one dimension. But there's a powerful work out there for us to do. They have decided to make, you must hold fast to those whom you are trying to help, else victory will never be yours. So you gotta hold fast to them. They will be continually tempted to evil. I said this is why everybody don't have the patience for this word. Because they think that when they tell somebody something once and they don't listen, and twice they don't listen or they're done with them. No, man. And the tree strikes it out. This is not baseball. 50 times down the road, you're still telling the person the same thing sometimes. And people need to see patience and long sufferings of Christ. So you hold fast to the person that you're trying to help, else victory will never be yours. They will be continually tempted to evil again and again. They will be almost overcome by the craving for strong drink. Again and again they may fall, but do not, because of this, cease your efforts. So yes, they may backslide. This is the character of God coming out. This is how we know that God is, you see, but the thing is, I realize that we don't think that God is merciful. We think that God has us on a leash, that if we slip up, not that this is encouragement to slip up, we are cut off. God is actually in the business of saving people. God is in the business of helping people. When we begin to ask God, Lord, how can we help people in our community? You know, I was going to church one time, I was still a young man. I'm still a young man anyway, I was just younger. And a guy gave me a lift, and I invited him to church. He said, quite frankly, brother, thank you for the invitation, but I would never go to that church over there. I asked him why. He said, because they have no impact in the community. They do nothing for the community whatsoever. Some of the Adventist churches do very little for the community worldwide. And not there's not stuff that we don't do, that we don't do. We do a lot. But a community impact,
Yeah.
you're going to find the Catholic Church have a powerful community impact. You're going to find the Anglican Church and the Methodist Church and the Baptist Church have a powerful community impact that you cannot come and dig the people out. They don't care how well you tell them about the Sabbath. They are staying here. Why? Because these people was doing this to me. These people was helping me. This is where we fall down, you know. This is right where we fall down. So we can have a much more powerful impact in the community. You understand? But we have been limited only to giving out tracts and giving out books, but it's one-dimensional. When the other two dimensions of the being, we can't get to the spiritual if we don't deal with the physical and the mental. But we be only hitting at the spiritual. And the commissionary work has been given us to reach the whole being. So we have tremendous responsibility and also tremendous opportunity for ministry by going farther than simply the pages of the book, the leaves of autumn. The leaves of autumn are good, right? But I need the fruits of spring and summer. We need the fruits of spring and summer. Why we just leaning on the leaves when we can get some fruit too? You understand? And that is the fruit of the word. So, beloved, I will challenge you as I challenge everybody. Ask God, what more can we do to help people? Because if we do the same thing over and over again, the same way, and expect a different result, that means we're insane.
Right.
We're waiting for a big rainfall to fall down from heaven. We're waiting for the land rain to come and do all this work for us, and that's not the case. But I guarantee you, there are people in this community around here that want to know how to stop smoking. That want to get off of drugs.
Yeah.
The occasional little cocaine or whatever else. They're into meth, whatever else. There are people that want help. I mean, you're not going to do and say, look, we just come to help. If you don't need help, do you know somebody else that needs help? I ain't bought a book Bible study. This is where you sit down, you plan evangelism, and they say, good. This is the year 2017 to 2018. In these first 3 months, we're going to knock on doors, we're going to take names. Then we're going to establish those contacts and establish a solid stream of help that we can give them in these next 3 months. Then we can begin the next phase of operating in the next 3. And so therefore we must expect something here at the end of this last quarter. And if we don't get that result, we continue the cycle. But we continue to move neighborhood after neighborhood. Boom. And you realize that you don't even have to go and look for people now. People looking for you because if one person help. Hey, when you're building a house, one man is a man. And then in the wood, there's a whole man. So when you help one person, that's 100 people. Possible. So when we have a cause that is bigger than ourselves, when our cause is bigger than our church services, when our cause is bigger than our goals that we set, you understand? We realize that, hey, we've been aiming too small, too low. We can aim much higher. We can aim much higher. So, they have decided to make an effort to live for Christ, but their willpower is weakened, and they must be carefully guarded by those who watch for souls as they that must give an account. They have lost their manhood, and this they must win back. Lost their manhood. You know, one of the things that God has designed to give us a sense of dignity is having your own home. Read it in the book Adventist Stones. It says, every man God designs to own their own home because it's going to give them a sense of place, purpose, being, and dignity. So you know what it feels to be homeless? Stripped of your dignity, sleeping on the streets, eating out of the garbage can. Wow, that's terrible. I can't fathom it. But how many people are like that? Yes, they have made stupid choices and decisions. Some others are victim of circumstance. But they must be abandoned in Gilead. They have lost their manhood, and this they must win back. Many have to battle against strong hereditary tendencies to evil and natural cravings. And the question was posed if we will suffer from the same diseases as our parents. You know, we can have the same tendencies that our parents have because of genetics. Because your life is a genetic, or every day that you are alive, is written in your genetic code based on your sum total of life experiences. All of your habits, all of your choices, they are transferred in your genetic code. Our genetic code is made up of words, spaces, numbers, commas, full stops. And I'm not being ambiguous. It's literally, our genetic code is as though you're reading a storybook, as though you're reading sentences. It is full of alphabets, everything. And so, what is in our code is our life experience. So this is why our children born with our tendency. My son leans his head just like how I lean my head. You understand? My daughter is doing the same things that I did. I used to do this when I was small. You understand? I see my daughter doing it. I never showed it to her, but she's doing that thing. Yeah, everything that I am good at, she is good at. It just passed on through the genetics and diseases as well included. And so, however, your lifestyle choices, while genetic may allow you got your lifestyle choices. Whereas my grandmother who died last year, she died of high blood pressure, stroke, diabetes. My mother has none of those things because my mother made a conscious choice. I'm not going out like that. Her sister died like that in 2014. Her mother died like that in 2016. She made that choice years ago. No, my life ain't ending like this. So she's very careful with her diet. She might still be eating meat, but she's very careful with her diet, eating fresh, eating raw, making sure she's exercising, and she's still a young woman. She's 56 years old or 57 years old, and she has no issues whatsoever because she made a conscious choice. No, your house is not going to burn down. Your house is not going to burn down, and I'm not going to be here not throwing water on mine and throwing water on mine. That's what she did. So I don't fear those things. Because I've made different lifestyle choices altogether. So, it is up to our lifestyle choices. But, hereditary tendencies are passed on. A general disposition to do things. And Sister White speaks about masturbation where parents were guilty of masturbation and the children were born, and that's what the children naturally did. Terrible. That was a hereditary tendency to evil. So people have unnatural cravings, sensual impulses. Were they inheritance from birth? So perversion is going to be people's inheritance from birth. If you think you see drama yet in this world, wait and see. Next generation. These must be carefully guarded against. Within and without, good and evil are striving for the mastery. Those who have never passed through such experiences cannot know the almost overmastering power of appetite or the fierceness of the conflict between habits of self-indulgence and the determination to be temperate in all things. So there's a battle going on inside of people for sometimes the simplest of things, but yet still we are thrown under. Over and over again, the battle must be fought. So how do we get rid of our own vices that we may have? No, because I pray today and fast for 3 days this month to get over the issues that have me bound, it don't mean the temptation is not going to come back with double force next month. It is going to come back. The devil is going to redouble his efforts, marshal his forces, and drop the mother of all bombs on me. And there I'm going to be flat out on the ground, floored by my vices, my evil, degenerate habits, whatever they may be, and I'm thinking, well, guess what? I can't get over this. It's either I'm going to go 2 ways. God has to accept me with this sin, or I'm going to die to this sin. That's the thought process. However, over and over again, the battle must be fought. So if you fight today and you're floored, you just keep getting up and keep fighting. Because the will has to come to the place where you realize you have to come to the place of Jacob. Let me go. I will not let thee go unless you bless me. The will needs to come to that. That's a spot. That's a literal place that you have to come to regarding everything that have you bound. No. I'm not doing this here. I can't continue like this here. I reject it. It's a particular place, but sometimes you get near to it, the devil knocks you off your feet, you roll back down the hill, you got to climb all the way back up there again. Because he knows that once you get to that decision, this is why you read Steps of Christ, page 47. The will is the governing force in man, and what we are going to do as medical missionaries, we're going to help the will to come to the right place. through all the agencies of nature, but also, as we have just read, being their friend and having to fight over and over again the battle for their souls. Many who are drawn to Christ will not have moral courage to continue the warfare against appetite and passion. So appetite is eating and drinking and dressing as well. Passion, the things that naturally occur within us, our natural disposition, the things that draw to our soul, that tempt us, that pull at us. We have to fight these things. But the worker must not be discouraged by this. Is it only those rescued from the lowest depths that backslide? No, it's not. Remember that you do not work alone. Ministering angels unite in service.
Amen.
Amen. With every true-hearted son and daughter of God, and Christ is the restorer. The great physician himself stands beside his faithful workers, saying to the repentant soul, "Child, thy sins be forgiven thee." Despite people in this generation don't particularly believe in God, the rate of sin has them burdened. I don't care if you don't believe in God, but when they tell you, you don't need to believe in God, guess what? But God forgives you of your sins. You deal with that. I'm in their wheelhouse now. I'm in their head now. When here, they might not, you see, people may be in denial, but sin is still a burden. Sin is a burden that people want off of them. And so we must be the ones to come and let them know, you know what, I prayed for you. God forgives you of your sins. Many who are the outcasts will grasp the hope set before them in the gospel and will enter the kingdom of heaven, while others who were blessed with great opportunities and great light which they did not improve will be left in outer darkness. The victims of evil habit must be aroused to the necessity of making an effort for themselves. Others may put forth the most earnest endeavor to uplift them. The grace of God may be freely offered. Christ may entreat. His angels may minister. But all will be in vain unless they themselves are roused to fight the battle in their own behalf. See, we're getting it from this morning that we were talking about the person must be accountable to their own soul for their own healing. And so therefore, this is where we come in. We are going to coach them to health. We're going to coach them to health. And so this is why we've been given this very foundational, fundamental knowledge to help people who are in need of help. So while we may be thinking about people who are suffering with serious conditions and so on and so forth, don't forget the person that is a slave to habits, because Christ has come to set the captives free. He has come to set every captive free. So medical missionary work is the work that God has designed to set captives free. People who were with leprosy, they were captive. That was a hopeless state. Christ gave hope to the hopeless. Because if you had leprosy in that day, your life was over. All of your dreams, your hopes, your desires, you had no future. It was over. Can you resign yourself right now to that thought today about your life, all the aspirations that you have and the improvements to yourself and to your life that you would like to make? You can no longer do anything about it. That's a terrible prison. The last words of David to Solomon, then a young man and soon to receive the crown of Israel, were, "Be strong and show thyself a man." To every child of humanity, the candidate for an immortal crown, are these words of inspiration spoken: "Be strong and show thyself a man." The self-indulgent must be led to see and feel that great moral renovation is necessary if they would be men. God calls upon them to arouse and in the strength of Christ win back the God-given manhood that has been sacrificed through sinful indulgence. So you are helping people. You know, I was watching a program, I think it was Extreme Makeovers. I don't know if it still runs. And ABC Network was giving back to people who would give, who were giving to society. And so I saw people who were doing community work and simple work as well. And I saw people who were doing humanitarian work, and ABC came in and buy them a new airplane to help them in their work and giving clean water to people in areas that are suffering from lack of clean water, and rebuild a house and all kind of stuff. And I was like, whoa, this is what man is doing for man. How much more God wants to do for us? But why would God give back to us when we have not been our first giving? You understand? So we can raise the bar. We can raise the bar much higher. We can do much more than we have been doing. Don't think that because our numbers may be small and we may not be anybody in particular, but we can help people one soul at a time, one neighborhood at a time. We can be change agents. Feeling the terrible power of temptation, the drawing of desire that leads to indulgence, many a man cries in despair, I cannot resist evil. Tell him that he can, that he must resist. He may have been overcome again and again, but it need not be always thus. He is weak in moral power, controlled by the habits of a life of sin. His promises and resolutions are like ropes of sand. The knowledge of his broken promises and forfeited pledges weakens his confidence in his own sincerity and causes him to feel that God cannot accept him or work with his efforts, but he need not despair. Those who put their trust in Christ are not to be enslaved by any hereditary or cultivated habit or tendency. Instead of being held in bondage to the lower nature, they are to rule every appetite and passion. And that's the key. To control the passions, we must control the appetite. God has not left us to battle with evil in our own finite strength. Whatever may be our inherited or cultivated tendencies to wrong, we can overcome through the power that He is ready to impart. And this is how we, especially the older we get, the more strong the voices that we have had become. This is how we do it. And I was working with somebody at the time, and I was helping them over their sickness, still helping them. And I sent in some person, I couldn't be there for a time. And they were so intent to rush the person through the process that their main concern was to get them to do these Bible studies, get them in the water, and make them a member. And the person was like, don't come back at my house any longer. And I was like, high five. Because they don't know how to deal with you. Well, they themselves ain't ready yet. And so I run experiments. And they were able to succeed in their method of doing things, which was not Christ's method, with somebody else that I was working with too, because I just working with them. I basically working like a little ant. I put them in work every day, doing all that I can wherever I am. And so here, they took up some other work that I had started as well, and rush Bible study, rush get baptized, rush. And when the person was baptized, that was the end. The person still had the life issues that I was working with them on. The person still needed help, and they didn't give the person the help, but they claimed to be a minister. And so they didn't give the person the help that they need. Where's the person now? Out. Back out. You understand? So there's a way to do the work of God, and we can only do the work of Christ as Christ wants us to do the work if we are determined to be successful. So it is a Christian help work. It is not a Christian rush work to build up a membership. It's to make an impact. It's to help souls. And this particular person that I was helping, the neighbors around would just see me coming faithfully all the time. And the neighbor's impression of me was, who is this man? Where did you find this man? I have never seen this before. Because their neighbor are Christians as well, Adventists as well, and their neighbors don't do nothing. So what makes an impact is when people can see, hey, have faith in God With God I walk by faith. We see with man, I walk by sight. The Bible never tell me have faith in humans. The Bible tell me have faith in God. And human beings are just like that, whether they want to be it, would admit it or not. People judge us by our fruits, not by our words. People just by our fruits, because anybody can profess. So the community needs to see that we are doing something to know that we care. But if we don't do anything in the community beyond the one dimension, evangelism, the community will not know that we care. So they don't want to hear us. Because they can't point to something tangible and say, well, you know what, I know that you care because you have done this. And not that the moment we do something, it makes an impact, is continued, consistent service. That's what people need to see. There's only one way to do it. There's only one way to do it. So we don't want to be occupiers of space. We want to be the people who make a rippling impact upon everything around us. That's what we want to be. That's what Christ did. Christ turned the world upside down, and as a testimony to having been with Christ, the disciples take it for a next spin too as well. You understand? Mm-hmm. Are we spinning? We causing it to spin? Or are we just here just chillaxing? Mm-hmm. You understand? Mm-hmm. So there's a work for us to do, beloved, and I want to challenge you to put your mind in the, and ask the right question, because the Bible says ask and it should be given you. So unless you ask yourself the question, how can I do more? The answer don't come. You don't see. The eyes are not open to see how we can do more. But I know that we can make a positive impact upon our community, upon the people that are around us. We can do evangelism as Christ wants evangelism to be done. So we don't have to just lean upon one thing. We have a solid work before us that we can do. Let me just end here. The tempted one needs to understand the true force of the will. This is the governing power in the nature of man, the power of decision, of choice. Everything depends on the right action of the will. Desires for goodness and purity are right so far as they go, but if we stop here, they avail nothing. Many will go down to ruin while hoping and desiring to overcome their evil propensities. They do not yield the will to God. They do not choose to serve Him. God has given us the power of choice. It is ours to exercise. We cannot change our hearts. We cannot control our thoughts, our impulses, our affections. We cannot make ourselves pure, fit for God's service. But we can choose to serve God. We can give Him our will. Then He will work in us to will and do according to His good pleasure. Thus, our whole nature will be brought under the control of Christ. So how do we help other persons and ourselves to overcome our habits, our propensities? We give our will to God. That's the only way we can get it, because we need a power outside of ourselves to change us. And therefore, when we know this, we are now able to go forth and help others who want that change in their life as well. And we can use our life as a testimony to say, hey, God has helped me to change, and I know He will help me to change. And notice this point. Through the right exercise of the will, an entire change may be made in the life. By yielding up the will to Christ, we ally ourselves with divine power. So this divine power that is here, you are actually activating the person's will to believe that this process is going to work. So trust in divine power is when you are helping that person surrender their will to God. That's the entering when. Whoop, right there. Set the stage. We receive strength from above to hold a steadfast, a pure and noble life, a life of victory over appetite and lust. It's possible to everyone who will unite his weak, wavering human will to the omnipotent, unwavering will of God. Those who are struggling against the power of appetite should be instructed in the principles of healthful living. It shall be shown that violation of the laws of health by creating disease conditions and unnatural cravings lays the foundation of the liquor habit. Only by living in obedience to the principles of health can they hope to be freed from the craving for unnatural stimulants. While they depend upon divine strength to break the bonds of appetite, They are to cooperate with God with obedience to his laws, both moral and physical. So, there's a great work for us we do, beloved. I would suggest that you, and this is the last portion, forgive me, allow me to read it. Those who are endeavoring to reform should be provided with employment. None who are able to labor should be taught to expect food and clothing and shelter free of cost. For their own sake as well as for the sake of others, some way should be devised whereby they may return an equivalent for what they receive. Encourage every effort towards self-support. This will strengthen self-respect and a noble independence. An occupation of mind and body in useful work is essential as a safeguard against temptation. So here we take it further. We're not just doing, we're not just giving handouts or opening a soup kitchen or whatever. We are making this person independent. We're letting them know we want you to be independent, to stand on your own 2 feet, to make you useful, to restore your dignity and your self-respect. And so this is how far we take it. So we have been given all the answers. We have all the answers to the questions. It's up to us now to do the work that needs to be done. Father in heaven, we need your help. We need your help to do more than we have done. Father in heaven, we need your help to be more useful to you in working in your vineyard, building up your kingdom. Up until this point, Lord of heaven, our work, our ministry has been largely one-dimensional as a church. I pray that you will help us to make it 3-dimensional, that we will be able to utilize fully this complete system of truth that affects the whole being, that lifts the soul up from the depths of degradation to walk in newness of life with Christ Jesus. I pray, O God of heaven, that you will help us as your people to put our heads together, to plan a way forward, to not just dwell in the realms of the theoretical and the philosophical, but to come out of the cocoon of indolence or the cocoon of limitation and break free into a greater ministry that feeds the soul, that feeds the mind, that feeds the body, and that recreates the image of God in our fellow human beings. Be with us, open our eyes, that we are able to open doors of opportunity for us to be a blessing to individuals and our communities at large, I pray. In Jesus' name. Amen.